Hey there folks, welcome to the channel and welcome to Celebrate Sausage. I'm glad you could join us because in today's episode, we are going to be making a Portuguese sausage of historic significance. I'm talking a sausage that literally saved people's lives. It's called Alheira. Let me tell you a little bit about this sausage. This sausage was invented by the Jews of Portugal in 1497 during a time when they were given a choice to either leave the country or convert to Catholicism. This was during the Spanish Inquisition. The Jews that decided to stay in Portugal and convert to Catholicism were called conversos, or converts. Now, while some Jews actually converted into Catholicism, others wanted to maintain their Judaic beliefs, and one of which was to not eat pork. This posed a problem because Portuguese Catholics did not have a problem eating pork. You see, smoking and eating sausages was an activity that was so intertwined in the non-Jewish Portuguese culture that if you claimed to be Catholic but you weren't actively hanging sausages in your smokehouse, there's a decent chance you would attract the attention of the Portuguese Inquisition or your Catholic neighbors. So in an attempt to stay true to their beliefs, but also fit in and stay in the country, these Jewish converts created a kosher sausage that could be hung in their smokehouses just like their Catholic neighbors. This sausage was single-handedly responsible for saving thousands of Jews from expulsion or death during the Spanish Inquisition of Portugal, and today we're going to make it. Now, over the last 550 years, this sausage has integrated itself into the Portuguese culinary scene, and today it's literally enjoyed by everybody. You could find it with pork, with game meat, with beef, with chicken, and so it's served a bunch of different ways. In today's recipe, we're going to be using only beef and chicken, no pork whatsoever, but you can add just about whatever meat you want, and it's going to be pretty tasty. Let's make Alheira.
All right, let's make this awesome sausage. So we're using chicken and beef for this recipe. I like chicken thighs because you could cook them a long time. They're nice and juicy, very tender, but we are going to be grinding everything after it's all done, so it kind of doesn't really matter too much. As far as the beef goes, use whatever cut you can get your hands on. I do like to include some bones. That's going to give us amazing flavor along with the chicken, and we're going to be using that stock in our recipe. So let's put that to the side. Let's look at some of the other ingredients I'm going to add to that stock. Right here, we've got dried parsley, garlic, celery, onion, carrots, peppercorn, bay leaf. This is simply going to be added so that we can get maximum flavor from our stock. It's going to be incredible. So we're now going to add all of our ingredients to a pot, and I'm going to add enough water to cover it by about an inch. Right here at the last second, I decided I was going to add a little tomato paste for an added richness, so that's totally optional. At this point, we're just flavoring the stock, so tomato paste in, no problem. And we're going to cover that and bring it to a simmer and just let it simmer until your meat is fall apart tender, both the beef and the chicken. Now, depending on how much you're cooking, this may take, several hours, but once it's fall apart tender, go ahead and remove it from the fire and strain out your liquid. Set the liquid to the side and then separate your meat and chicken from the vegetables that you cook. All we want is the meat and chicken. Now look at that broth. Wow, that looks amazing. All right, so we're going to go ahead and separate the beef and the chicken. We're going to remove any bones that we have and let it cool. Let's look at our spices. We've got salt. We've got pepper. We've got a little paprika. I'm going to add some red chili flakes. And this Cajun's going to want some heat, so cayenne pepper in, minced garlic. And then finally, we're going to have some chopped fresh parsley. That is it. That's the spice profile. I'm telling you, this is going to be, my mouth is watering as I'm talking to you right now. This is going to be amazing. All right, so here we go. Our beef and chicken have been deboned. I did not include the skin of the chicken in case you were wondering. This is all meat. And if you happen to get any peppercorn or whatnot in this mix, that's totally fine. The next ingredient is bread. Now, I'm using sourdough bread. I like the flavor. It absorbs liquid well. And of course, we've got our broth. This broth is absolutely capital. Smells amazing. So this is what we're working with. And I want you to notice something. This is a very, very lean setup right here. We don't have a lot of fat. So we're going to be adding some extra virgin olive oil, that along with some of the rendered fat that the chicken gave us in our stock. That's all going to come together, give it a really nice, juicy mouthfeel. It's going to be incredible. So our next step is to grind our beef and our chicken. We're going to slam this through the grinder and mix everything together. Our meat was still pretty warm. You don't have to worry about chilling it because here in a second we are going to smoke it and finish up the cooking process. Let's get the bread portion ready, and for this we're going to start off by adding some extra virgin olive oil to the bread. The bread right here plays an important role in this sausage. I mean, it's going to soak up these liquid ingredients. And we're now going to add our stock, and I do want to try to make sure that I get any of that fat that was rendered in my stock. I want to try to add that here. The amount of stock that you add may be a little different than me. I'm going to start off with about 2 cups, and I want the line of liquid stock at this point to just be at the level of the bread. Now, I am going to put a recipe link in the description box below, so be sure to check it out. It's going to have all the details. And so we're probably going to end up adding more stock here in a minute, but this is a good place to start. And what I'm going to do is just give it a cover and let that bread soak up that stock. And I want it to soak up 100%. So I don't want any liquid showing after the fact. So we're going to let that sit for a minute while we mix our spices and herbs into our meat. And this is starting to really come together beautifully. Right now, it kind of reminds me of a Cajun boudin, how a boudin is prepared with obviously bread instead of rice, but same basic principle. Now, I did want to go non-pork for this sausage, so I'm doing 43 millimeter beef rounds from the sausage maker. If you want to have a pork casing and have a smaller diameter, that is not a problem. This sausage today, 550 years later, can be found made with all sorts of non-traditional ingredients, including pork. So you can kind of have fun with what you choose to use to make this awesome sausage. So right here, I'm just rinsing out our casing, making sure that I flesh out the center, getting rid of any of the salt, rinsing my water out a couple times, and I'm going to let this rehydrate. Now, I don't consider beef middles to be an edible casing, although you could eat it, and it's very, very chewy. We're going to be using the beef middles more to house our sausage filling rather than to eat it. And you'll see what I'm talking about here at the end of this video when we cook it up and give it a taste. All right, let's look at our bread. By this time, it should have absorbed all of that stock that we added, and it has. This looks absolutely amazing. It should be mushy, as you would expect. I mean, we're looking for kind of like a gooey paste, and that's an absolute perfect consistency right here. So we're just going to mix these two ingredients together. And at this stage is when you'll need to determine whether you need to add more stock. All right, so I do have reserve stock behind me, and as I mix this, I'll be able to see whether it's a little on the dry side, and if it is, we're just going to add stock a little bit at a time. The end result of this mixture should be somewhat of a mushy paste. So as you can see right here, the mixture looks relatively dry. It's a little crumbly. As I mix it, it is coming together, but it still is pretty crumbly. So I'm going to add a little more stock. We're going to do about a 1/4 cup at a time and mix it up. And I can tell you already this is going to be an incredible sausage. The stock alone is loaded with flavor. All right, so this is coming together a little bit better, but we're not quite there yet. So 1/4 cup of stock in, continue to mix. And this is really starting to look a little bit better. Like for me, this is what I'm shooting for. You can experiment with how much liquid you add, but at this point, I think we're good to go. We're going to go ahead and pop this into our sausage stuffer and get this into its casing. Absolutely perfect. The Portuguese Alheira sausage has a traditional horseshoe shape. And so we made our links roughly about, 10 inches or so, give or take. And we're going to tie those ends together to form that horseshoe link. Now, Alheira is a smoked sausage, even though it's already cooked. And back in the 1500s, this was smoked for up to a week at a time in the nice, cool Portuguese weather for preservation. Well, our weather isn't very cool, so it's not very conducive to smoke for a week at a time. So what we're going to do is hot smoke these at 225 degrees Fahrenheit for a couple hours. That's going to keep everything in the safe zone. It's going to give it that nice smoky flavor. And once they're done smoking, you can either eat it or you could freeze it to eat for later. Either one. Let's go ahead and close this smoker off and we'll check back on it in a couple hours. Now that is what I'm looking for. This Alheira is super smoky, beautiful color. I'm not going to eat these today, so I'm going to go ahead and cool these down, but you could go ahead and fry them up and enjoy them. They are totally ready.
our finished sausage looks incredible. Beautiful color, great aroma. We're going to go ahead and fry it up and see what it's all about. Now, you could roast these, you could fry them, you can grill them. It's really up to you. And depending on what kind of casing you used, you could either leave the casing on and eat it with the sausage, or you can remove the casing and fry it up like I'm about to do right here. What I love about this method is that when we fry up that inside filling on a hot skillet with some olive oil, we're going to crisp up the outside of this sausage really nice, and it's going to give us a beautiful contrasting texture of a crispy outside with a soft, delicious, savory inside. Let's go ahead and make it happen. 500-year-old Portuguese sausage Alheira. Let's give it a go. Wow, that is delightfully smoky, garlicky. Wow, that is incredibly flavorful. Smoky, garlicky, a little spicy. Overall, I love the texture. The texture is crispy on the outside. You know, the way that bread filling kind of crisped up in the olive oil. The center is nice and soft. If you use pork or pork casing, you don't have to remove it. You can crisp it up right there on the frying pan. We did use beef middle, so we'd remove the casing, and it's just as good. I hope you get a chance to try this absolutely historic sausage. If you have any questions, drop them in the comment section below. If you're new here, click that subscribe button and that notification bell. We're in the middle of a month-long series where we upload a brand new sausage making recipe just for you. Thanks for being here. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.